The story of Prophet Ibrahim's dream stands as one of the most profound and moving episodes in Islamic history. It is a narrative that has transcended time and culture to become a symbol of unwavering faith, complete submission to the divine will, and the ultimate test of trust in Allah. This dream is not simply a vision, but a divine command, a moment where the heart of a prophet was tested, and through his response, the foundation for one of Islam's most sacred rituals, the sacrifice commemorated during Eid al-Adha, was laid. The context of the dream, Ibrahim's spiritual journey. To fully appreciate the significance of Prophet Ibrahim's dream, we must first understand the context of his life and spiritual journey. Ibrahim, peace be upon him, is revered in Islam as one of the greatest prophets, a man who dedicated his entire existence to the worship of the one true God and the rejection of idolatry. His story is marked by trials, courage, and a relentless search for truth. Born into a society steeped in polytheism and idol worship, Ibrahim was gifted with insight and reasoning that led him to question the false deities around him. He famously challenged his people, and even his own father, to abandon idol worship and turn to the Creator of the heavens and the earth. This quest for monotheism was not easy. It placed Ibrahim at odds with his community and brought him immense hardship. Throughout these trials, Ibrahim demonstrated unwavering faith and complete submission to Allah's commands. His devotion set the stage for the ultimate test that would come, the dream that would challenge his very heart and soul. The nature of the divine dream. The Quran refers to Ibrahim's dream as a vision granted by Allah, a command that was both a trial and an opportunity for spiritual elevation. Unlike ordinary dreams, which are often reflections of our thoughts or experiences, this dream was a direct communication from God, a clear and divine instruction. In this vision, Ibrahim saw himself sacrificing his beloved son, Ismail. For any parent, this is an unimaginable command. The prospect of losing a child is one of life's deepest fears and pains. Yet the significance of this dream extends beyond the act itself. It is about Ibrahim's willingness to surrender everything for the sake of God. The Quranic narration in Surah As-Safat captures the dialogue between father and son with remarkable tenderness and faith. And when he reached with him the age of exertion, he said, "O my son, indeed I have seen in a dream that I must sacrifice you, so see what you think." He said, "O my father, do as you are commanded. You will find me, if Allah wills, of the steadfast." And when they had both submitted and he put him down upon his forehead, we called to him, "O Abraham, you have fulfilled the vision. Indeed, we thus reward the doers of good." This passage reveals the profound mutual submission of Ibrahim and Ismail. Both display absolute faith, Ibrahim ready to obey Allah's command, and Ismail prepared to accept his fate in God's will. This extraordinary example of trust and devotion remains unparalleled. The emotional and spiritual depth of the dream. Imagine the emotional turmoil Ibrahim must have faced. To be commanded to sacrifice his son, the fruit of his prayers and the bearer of his hopes, was a trial that pierced his heart. Yet he did not waver. Instead, he approached the command with solemn resolve and complete trust in Allah's wisdom. Ismail's response is equally remarkable. As a young boy, he demonstrates maturity, courage, and faith, telling his father to fulfill the command because God's will is supreme. This deep spiritual connection between father and son highlights the extraordinary nature of their faith and submission. This dream is a profound teaching about the nature of true obedience. It goes beyond blind submission. It is a conscious, heartfelt surrender to divine will, trusting that God's plan is ultimately for the best, even when it challenges our deepest attachments. The symbolism of the test. The dream and the command to sacrifice symbolize several core Islamic values. Total submission to God. Ibrahim's willingness to sacrifice what he loved most illustrates the concept of Islam itself, surrender to the will of Allah. It teaches believers that true faith requires giving up personal desires when they conflict with divine commands. Trust. In divine wisdom, the story emphasizes that human understanding is limited and believers must trust in God's infinite wisdom. Ibrahim did not question the command, but accepted it as a path to spiritual elevation. Sacrifice as a means of purification. Sacrifice symbolizes cleansing, removing attachments that may distract from true devotion. It is a reminder that sometimes we must give up cherished things to grow closer to God. Faith in trials. Life is filled with tests, and the story of Ibrahim's dream encourages patience and perseverance. It assures believers that enduring trials with faith brings divine reward, divine mercy, and the replacement of the sacrifice. Just as Ibrahim prepared to fulfill the command, Allah's mercy intervened. The Quran narrates that a ram was provided as a substitute, sparing Ismail's life, and we ransomed him with a great sacrifice. Quran 37:107. This act of divine mercy is central. It teaches that God does not desire needless suffering, but values our willingness and sincerity. The replacement animal symbolizes God's compassion and the idea that spiritual tests are opportunities for growth, not punishment. This mercy is celebrated annually during Eid al-Adha, when Muslims worldwide perform the Qurbani, commemorating Ibrahim's faith and God's mercy. Reflections for today. Lessons from Ibrahim's dream. The story of Ibrahim's dream resonates deeply with Muslims and seekers of faith everywhere. It offers timeless lessons relevant to our personal and communal lives. Letting go of attachments. Just as Ibrahim was ready to sacrifice his son, believers are encouraged to reflect on their attachments to wealth, status, habits, or relationships that may hinder their spiritual growth. Courage in the face of tests. Life's challenges are inevitable. Ibrahim's example shows that meeting these challenges with faith and trust can transform hardship into blessings. Trusting divine wisdom. When faced with uncertainty or hardship, believers can find comfort in trusting God's plan, knowing that every test has meaning. Embodying sincerity and obedience, true faith is demonstrated in action. Ibrahim's dream teaches that sincere obedience is an active commitment, not passive acceptance. The role of Ibrahim's dream in Islamic worship. Ibrahim's dream is the foundation of the annual Eid al-Adha celebration. The Qurbani ritual is more than a historical reenactment. It is a living expression of submission, gratitude, and community. By performing Qurbani, Muslims connect with Ibrahim's legacy, reaffirming their own faith and commitment. It is a time for family, charity, and spiritual renewal. The dream reminds believers that faith involves sacrifice, not only of animals, but also of ego, selfishness, and injustice. It calls Muslims to live lives of compassion, justice, and devotion. The significance of Ibrahim's dream, rituals, ethics, and spiritual lessons for today. The dream of Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him, is not only a pivotal moment in Islamic history, but also the spiritual foundation for the ritual of Qurbani, or animal sacrifice, celebrated annually during Eid al-Adha. Understanding the deeper significance of this dream reveals how faith, obedience, mercy, and ethical responsibility are intertwined in one of Islam's most revered traditions, the spiritual foundation of Qurbani. Connecting dream to ritual. Prophet Ibrahim's dream, as revealed in the Quran, serves as the divine origin of the Qurbani ritual. It commemorates the test that Ibrahim faced, a test of absolute submission to God's command and willingness to sacrifice what was most precious to him. Each year, Muslims reenact this profound moment through the sacrifice of an animal, symbolizing their own devotion and willingness to surrender personal desires for a higher spiritual purpose. This act is much more than symbolic. It is an active engagement with the values embodied by Ibrahim: faith, courage, and mercy. Every blade, every prayer, and every piece of meat shared carries the weight of centuries of tradition and the spiritual commitment to uphold divine commands. Understanding the ethical dimensions of Qurbaniyat, the heart of Qurbani lies a strong ethical framework that ensures the practice honors both God and His creation. While the ritual involves the sacrifice of an animal, Islam sets strict guidelines to guarantee that this act is conducted with kindness, responsibility, and respect. Choosing the animal with care. Islamic law requires that the animal selected for sacrifice be healthy, free from illness or defects. This stipulation ensures that the offering is worthy and that no unnecessary suffering is inflicted on the creature. It also reflects the sincerity of the person offering the sacrifice. Only the best and most cared-for animal is deemed suitable. Humane treatment. Before the sacrifice. Prior to the act, the animal should be treated with kindness and compassion. It should be fed well, given water, and kept in a calm, stress-free environment. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, taught kindness toward animals, forbidding cruelty and harsh treatment. This care is a testament to the reverence Islam holds for all living beings. Performing the sacrifice with compassion. The sacrifice must be done swiftly and gently, using a sharp knife to minimize pain. The person performing the sacrifice should say, Bismillah, in the name of Allah, and Allahu Akbar, God is the greatest, before beginning. The animal's throat, windpipe, and blood vessels are cut cleanly to ensure a quick loss of consciousness and reduce suffering. Avoiding unnecessary distress. Islam prohibits slaughtering animals in front of others or causing them to witness the act, as this can cause panic and distress. Such rules emphasize the mercy that must be exercised even in moments of ritual sacrifice. The role of intention, niyyah, in Qurbani. One of the most vital components of Qurbani is niyyah, the intention behind the act. Islam teaches that the spiritual value of any deed lies largely in the sincerity of one's intention. This means that the physical act of sacrifice, while important, is secondary to the heart's genuine submission and devotion. Qurbani is not meant to be a display of wealth or social status. It is a humble act of obedience to Allah, a reminder of the believer's dependence on divine mercy. The person offering the sacrifice must have the intention to seek God's pleasure, share blessings with others, and purify their soul. This emphasis on intention ensures that Qurbani remains a deeply personal and spiritual act, connecting the believer intimately with the legacy of Ibrahim's faith. The social dimension, sharing and charity. Qurbani is also a profound act of social justice and charity. The meat from the sacrificed animal is traditionally divided into 3 parts. 1/3 for the family who performed the sacrifice. 1/3 for relatives and friends. 1/3 for the poor and needy. This division embodies the principle that faith is not only a personal journey, but a communal responsibility. By sharing the meat with those less fortunate, Muslims express solidarity, compassion, and generosity. The distribution of meat fosters community bonds and ensures that everyone, regardless of their financial situation, can partake in the joy and blessings of Eid. It is an annual reminder that Islam calls on its followers to care for the vulnerable and work toward social equity. Reflecting on the mercy behind the sacrifice, the substitution of the ram for Ismail, peace be upon him, in Ibrahim's dream, highlights a fundamental aspect of Islam: God's mercy. While the sacrifice was a test of faith, it was never about needless suffering or cruelty. The ritual sacrifice during Eid al-Adha echoes this divine compassion. It is a symbolic offering, a reflection of surrender and an expression of gratitude, not a call for harm. Islam's detailed guidelines serve to ensure that mercy remains at the core of the ritual. Contemporary ethical concerns and Islamic responses. In the modern world, discussions around animal rights, environmental sustainability, and ethical food production have become increasingly prominent. Muslims practicing Qurbani today often face questions about how to align traditional practices with contemporary ethical standards. Islamic scholars and communities have responded thoughtfully, emphasizing humane treatment and swift, painless slaughter as religious obligations, encouraging collective Qurbani programs to reduce waste and increase impact, supporting environmental sustainability by minimizing waste and respecting local laws, promoting education on animal welfare and ethical sacrifice methods. These efforts demonstrate Islam's capacity to adapt and uphold its values of mercy and justice in changing contexts. Spiritual lessons beyond the ritual. The dream of Ibrahim and the Qurbani ritual invite believers to internalize several deep spiritual lessons. Detachment. Sacrifice symbolizes letting go of attachments that may hinder spiritual growth. Gratitude. It is a time to reflect on blessings and share generously. Obedience. True faith involves submission to divine commands even when difficult. Compassion. Mercy toward animals and humans alike is central to a believer's life. Community. Faith is expressed through solidarity and mutual support. These lessons encourage Muslims to embody the spirit of Eid throughout the year, living lives marked by kindness, generosity, and devotion. Personal reflections and renewed commitment. For many Muslims, participating in Qurbani is a deeply emotional and transformative experience. It is a time to renew faith, seek forgiveness, and commit to living more consciously. The act of sacrifice becomes a personal reminder to surrender ego, strive for righteousness, and serve humanity. It inspires believers to look beyond materialism and embrace a life guided by divine principles. Practical lessons, ritual practices, and community significance of Prophet Ibrahim's dream. The story of Prophet Ibrahim's, peace be upon him, dream is not only a profound spiritual narrative, but also a foundation for practical, ethical, and communal aspects of Islamic worship that Muslims observe annually. This segment will explore how the dream translates into everyday practice, the detailed rituals of Qurbani, and its role in building and sustaining the Muslim community worldwide. Through understanding these facets, believers deepen their connection to Ibrahim's legacy and enrich their spiritual lives. Connecting the dream to ritual practice, Qurbani in detail, the dream of Prophet Ibrahim represents ultimate submission and trust in God's command. And this submission finds its expression in the act of Qurbani, the ritual animal sacrifice performed during Eid al-Adha. Each year, Muslims worldwide reenact Ibrahim's faith and obedience through this symbolic act, which involves specific steps governed by Islamic law and tradition. Choosing the animal, selecting the appropriate animal, is the first practical step, and one imbued with spiritual responsibility. Islamic jurisprudence, fiqh, stipulates that the animal should be mature, healthy, and free from defects such as blindness, lameness, or illness. The commonly used animals include sheep, goats, cows, and camels, the choice often influenced by cultural and regional practices. The significance of selecting a healthy animal aligns with honoring God's creation and offering the best to Him. This decision reflects sincerity and respect, emphasizing that Qurbani is not a mere formality, but a profound devotional act. Timing of the sacrifice. The sacrifice begins after the Eid prayer on the 10th day of Dhul Hijjah, the last month of the Islamic lunar calendar. The ritual extends until the sunset of the 13th of Dhul Hijjah. This period reflects both solemnity and celebration, a time when communities come together in worship and festivity. Performing the sacrifice during this window connects believers globally in a shared expression of faith and obedience. Method of sacrifice. The act of sacrifice itself follows guidelines designed to minimize pain and suffering. The person performing the Qurbani must use a sharp knife, swiftly cutting the animal's throat, windpipe and blood vessels to ensure rapid blood loss and quick unconsciousness. Before beginning, it is recommended to say the takbir, Bismillah Allahu Akbar. In the name of Allah, Allah is the greatest, sanctifying the act and reminding oneself of the divine purpose behind the ritual. Animals should not be slaughtered in front of others, nor should other animals witness the act, reducing distress and panic. These humane practices highlight the mercy Islam mandates even within sacrificial rituals. Distribution of the meat. The division of the sacrificed animal's meat into 3 parts is a hallmark of Qurbani, 1/3 for the family, to partake in the blessing and celebrate Eid with loved ones. 1/3 for friends and relatives to strengthen social bonds and share joy. 1/3 for the poor and needy to fulfill social justice and compassion, ensuring that all community members can partake in Eid celebrations. This sharing underlines the ethical and social dimensions of Qurbani, transforming a personal act of worship into a collective act of mercy and charity. Ethical reflections on the ritual. While the physical procedures of Qurbani are clearly defined, the ethical principles that underpin these actions are equally vital to understand and embody: mercy and compassion for animals. The story of Ibrahim's dream, culminating in the substitution of the ram for Ismail, teaches that God values mercy above all. Therefore, Muslims are urged to treat animals kindly before, during, and after the sacrifice. This includes proper feeding, watering, and sheltering of animals, avoiding unnecessary stress or cruelty. The Prophet Muhammad's, peace be upon him, numerous teachings on kindness to animals reinforce these values, highlighting that mercy is a defining characteristic of true faith. Intentionality and sincerity. Niyyah, or sincere intention, is foundational in all acts of worship in Islam. Qurbani is no exception. The act must be performed solely to seek God's pleasure, not for showing off wealth or social status. This internal focus transforms the sacrifice from a mere ritual into a spiritual offering, a submission of the heart that aligns the believer with Ibrahim's example of obedience and devotion. Social justice and generosity. The distribution of meat to the poor reflects Islam's commitment to social equity and compassion. Qurbani reminds believers that their blessings are not solely personal, but communal responsibilities. By sharing generously, Muslims embody the prophetic tradition of caring for the vulnerable, building stronger, more compassionate communities. Community and communal spirit. Qurbani as a social institution. Qurbani is not only a personal religious act, but also a significant social institution that unites Muslims globally. Shared rituals, shared identity. Performing Qurbani at the same time across the world, Muslims participate in a collective affirmation of faith and identity. This simultaneity creates a spiritual bond, transcending ethnic, cultural, and national divides. Eid celebrations, communal prayers and shared meals further cement social cohesion and collective joy. Collective Qurbani initiatives. In many parts of the world, Muslims pool resources to perform collective sacrifices, especially where individual ownership of sacrificial animals is impractical. These programs, often run by mosques and Islamic charities, help maximize the impact of Qurbani by distributing meat to those in dire need, including refugees and impoverished communities. Collective efforts foster solidarity, generosity, and a shared sense of purpose, strengthening the Ummah's fabric. Cultural variations and common values around the world, Muslims celebrate Qurbani with diverse customs reflecting local cultures, from festive markets in South Asia to pastoral ceremonies in Africa. Despite these variations, the core values of obedience, mercy, charity, and community remain universal, demonstrating Islam's ability to embrace diversity while upholding shared principles. Personal transformation. Through Qurbani beyond the outward ritual, Qurbani invites profound personal transformation. Sacrificing the self, the symbolic nature of the sacrifice, calls believers to reflect on what they must sacrifice in their own lives: egotism, greed, envy, and injustice. By embracing selflessness, Muslims deepen their relationship with God and strengthen their moral character. Renewal of faith and gratitude. Participating in Qurbani renews a believer's awareness of divine blessings and the transient nature of worldly life. It inspires gratitude for health, sustenance, family, and community, prompting acts of kindness and generosity beyond Eid, strengthening family and community bonds. The communal aspect of Qurbani strengthens ties within families and neighborhoods, fostering cooperation, empathy, and shared joy. Preparing for Eid together, sharing meat and attending communal prayers reinforce social harmony. Overcoming modern challenges, balancing tradition and ethics today, Muslims navigate the challenges of preserving Qurbani's sacred tradition while honoring contemporary concerns about animal welfare, environmental sustainability, and public health. Animal welfare. Awareness of humane treatment has grown, encouraging proper veterinary care, stress reduction, and ethical slaughter methods. Training programs and guidelines help ensure sacrifices align with both religious and modern ethical standards. Environmental concerns. Some communities advocate green Qurbani, minimizing waste and using sustainable practices in animal rearing, slaughter, and meat distribution. Respecting local regulations and hygiene practices also protects public health and community well-being. Urban contexts. In cities, performing Qurbani can be logistically challenging. Many Muslims use authorized slaughterhouses or donate to collective programs to maintain religious and ethical integrity. This adaptability shows Islam's practical flexibility and commitment to upholding values in diverse contexts. Inspiring future generations, educating youth about the spiritual, ethical, and social significance of Qurbani ensures the tradition's vibrant continuation. Involving young people in preparation, slaughter, and distribution fosters responsibility, empathy, and deeper faith. Teaching the story of Ibrahim's dream and its lessons helps youth internalize the values of obedience, mercy, and community. Conclusion. Living the spirit of Ibrahim's dream. Today, the dream of Prophet Ibrahim, A.S., is a timeless call to faith, obedience, and compassion. Through Qurbani, Muslims worldwide renew their commitment to these ideals, honoring divine mercy and fostering social justice. By performing the ritual with sincerity, mercy, and awareness, believers transform an ancient, command into a living testament of spiritual devotion and ethical responsibility. May each sacrifice be a step closer to God, a source of blessing for the community and a beacon of hope for a more compassionate world. Spiritual reflections, global impact, and the lasting legacy of Prophet Ibrahim's dream. The dream of Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him, and the ritual of Qurbani it inspired are not merely historical events, but living traditions that continue to shape the faith, identity, and ethics of Muslims worldwide. This part explores the profound spiritual reflections that Ibrahim's dream invites, its impact on global Muslim communities, and the enduring legacy that binds generations across time and geography. Spiritual reflections, faith, submission, and divine mercy. At the heart of Ibrahim's dream lies the essence of Islam, surrender to the will of Allah. This spiritual surrender is not a passive act, but an active choice made with conviction and love. Ibrahim's willingness to sacrifice his son demonstrates absolute trust in God's wisdom, even when faced with the unimaginable. This narrative encourages believers to cultivate faith that transcends fear and doubt. Life often presents tests and uncertainties, but Ibrahim's example teaches that trust in divine wisdom provides strength and peace. Submission to God's will. Islam means submission, and Ibrahim's dream embodies this principle. True submission involves aligning one's desires, actions, and intentions with divine guidance. It requires humility, recognizing human limitations, and embracing God's plan wholeheartedly. This act of submission is transformative. It frees believers from the chains of ego and worldly attachments, opening the path to spiritual enlightenment. Divine mercy. The replacement of Ismail with a ram underscores God's mercy, a recurring theme in the Quran and prophetic teachings. Allah's mercy softens the trial, showing that the test is about intention and obedience, not inflicting harm. This mercy reassures believers that while faith demands sacrifice, God's compassion is boundless and His rewards are abundant. Global impact. Eid al-Adha as a unifying celebration. The dream of Ibrahim and the Qurbani ritual it inspired have a profound global impact, uniting over 1 billion Muslims in shared worship and celebration. A worldwide Muslim community, Ummah, Eid al-Adha, is celebrated across continents, from the deserts of the Middle East to the bustling cities of Europe, from rural villages in Africa to urban centers in Asia. Despite linguistic, cultural, and national differences, the ritual acts as a powerful symbol of unity. Muslims worldwide pause simultaneously to pray, reflect, and sacrifice, reaffirming their common faith and shared values. Cultural expressions of Qurbani. While the core rituals remain consistent, the cultural expressions surrounding Qurbani are diverse and vibrant. In South Asia, colorful markets bustle with activity as families select animals and prepare feasts. In parts of Africa, the sacrifice is accompanied by traditional songs and dances, celebrating the joy and spiritual significance of the day. In Western countries, Muslims navigate urban regulations with community organizations facilitating ethical and halal Qurbani. This rich tapestry of cultural expressions highlights Islam's adaptability and the universal relevance of Ibrahim's dream. Ethical leadership and social justice. The story of Ibrahim's dream inspires Muslims not only in ritual observance, but also in ethical leadership and social justice. Standing against injustice. Ibrahim's life exemplified courage in standing against idolatry and oppression. His dream and subsequent actions symbolize the readiness to sacrifice personal comfort and safety for righteousness. Muslims are called to embody this spirit, advocating for justice, caring for the oppressed, and promoting ethical governance. Community, welfare and charity. Qurbani's meat distribution reinforces Islam's emphasis on charity. By sharing resources with the poor, Muslims actively work to reduce inequality and build compassionate societies. This aspect of Qurbani resonates strongly with the prophetic tradition of serving humanity and uplifting the marginalized. Environmental, stewardship and sustainable practices. In contemporary times, the environmental impact of animal sacrifices has become a critical consideration. Islamic principles of stewardship. The Quran teaches that humans are stewards, Khalifa of the earth, entrusted with preserving and protecting it. This responsibility extends to all acts, including Qurbani. Muslims are encouraged to adopt sustainable practices, minimizing waste, using resources wisely, and ensuring ethical treatment of animals. Innovations in ethical Qurbani. Many Muslim communities have initiated green Qurbani programs, integrating traditional values with modern ecological awareness.